No.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are here, and we're doing something a little bit different. Don't mind the overlay. It's the only one we had for 6, but it your eyes may be fooled. No, we're not doing Curse of the Azure Bonds a day beforehand. I mean, 2 days beforehand. Fuck.
Or any day.
It's canceled forever. Sorry, Kevin. But we're going to be doing a special Q&A session tonight. But first, a few introductions. Hello, my name is Nick, and I play Kick6 Mantra in this wonderful world. I am muscular, very, almost crossing the line to queer, and I am...
Almost?
Okay, I guess I'm very gay. And I really don't know how to think for myself, but it just, I get lucky. That's my character in a nutshell. I guess I'll just pass it over to Kevin, who knows more.
Yeah, I'm Kevin. I actually play 2 characters in the Shardist world. One is... I do. I play Bosco on the game we stream live. He's a member of the Celestial Bureau of Familiar Affairs. And a very good boy. He's a golden retriever, formerly a familiar. And then the other game I play, Walter, a know-it-all wizard who thinks everything's out to get him, because it is. And this world has slowly driven him insane, so I have a lot of questions.
Oh yeah.
Let's have Lauren throw in on this next.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I play Marzia Pan in the Saturday game, which is not streamed. She is a candy bard halfling. Think of a deranged Princess Lolly. The red and white stripes, a little poofy little tutu kind of thing. She carries around a street organ that she can easily, have a kickstand, or she swings around kind of thing. Hipster girl, whatever. I don't know. She likes to annoy Walter a lot because it's
the only thing she's successful at.
Yes, actually. She likes to just hand out candy and taffies and things, and she's ridiculous.
Unethical use of mind control.
I want friends, and I want them to take my candy. So like stranger's candy. Gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah. Rosie, how about you?
I play Auguste Barra. I'm a human wizard. I'm like, which game is this? Wizard who's gonna have a ghost monkey soon. I see dead people. I'm sort of like the adopted, extended member of a mini crime family. And I basically work as a PI, usually separate from them, but I will obviously support my family whenever they need me. So.
I always get a very Wednesday Addams vibe from August.
Essentially, yeah. But she sweats her family because they literally took her in off the streets when her real parents threw her out for seeing dead people and whatnot. So, but yeah, so that's me. Katie? Katie?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I got lagged. I'm Katie. I play Taika Ashton, and she is a bear shifter warlock with a fox familiar. She talks to trees and fairies, and currently I have a Sprite in a jar. And that's about it. Derek?
Okay. Now, I go this whole time without having a cough, and then I feel like the second I want to start talking, I'm going to start coughing. So, all right. Bear with me for just a moment. My name is Eric, and I run... I've combined the players. We have one player who could not be here today, but, she will catch up on this, and we all fondly miss her. I run a streamed version of this world on Fridays, and I run the non-streamed version on Saturdays. The difference being the big difference being is there's a time shift in this. Fridays happened in the past, and Saturdays technically happen in the what would be the closest to present day in terms of the timeline. So what is Shardus? Okay. Well, it's a setting that I've been working on and porting through the various editions since I was about 8 years old. I played in one game when I was 8, and then I'm like, I love this so much, I'm making my own shit. And I started to make my own stuff. But like everybody, when you first start making your own stuff, it's heavily influenced by the things around you. So
I think I hit my peak around 8. Creatively.
All downhill.
The first version of this setting was actually totally confined to a magic chessboard that was in another module, and the people that I played with got trapped in the chessboard, and then I expanded that chessboard and expanded and expanded and expanded, and they never went back to the module they were playing. They just died in the chessboard. Because that's what happens. Eventually, all heroes fade away.
Sounds like a tournament, all those chessboards everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So, there's been versions of this game in first edition. There's been versions of these games using the rules encyclopedia that was basic D&D. Second edition, 3.5. I kind of skipped over fourth. For a couple of reasons.
Did you play Taps at least?
No, when
I talk about fourth edition, Morty.
When I read it, it kind of wasn't my cup of tea at the time. Plus, I was also in the process of moving from a previous relationship to somewhere else, so I lost all my gaming groups and stuff. So it really became a fourth edition is kind of a sit-out period for me. And then when I came back to the games, I immediately jumped right back into 3.5, and that math was very comforting when I could have my favorite characters being rogues. I could have a skill monkey rogue that had 27 ranks in knitting for no reason, just so I could knit.
Oh, God, that's so hot.
Yeah. Or, those kinds of things. So then I said, look, I could start a brand new setting, 5th edition, new game, start over and everything. And then I'm like, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
So where did Shardus begin as a world? Where was its origin point?
So that's a good question. I'm going to have to say the biggest part where it started, like you said, started as this chessboard.
Maybe,
and then
I might have asked the question there. So for someone who's a citizen in Shardus,
okay.
How do they think the world began?
Okay,
what's their origin story?
Okay, so there's two concurrent timelines on that. One that involves a sacrifice by a god that kind of erased a portion of the timeline, and two, the very few individuals who were not kind of under the influence of that. The whole thing started, and I have some exact numbers for you.
So
the planet itself, or the whole one creation, was when it was stable enough to begin. It's almost 3,500 years old.
Okay, so we've been around for a long time.
Yeah, well, the planet has been around for a long time, but there's been, and that's the big thing about this, there have been several major events that have caused near catastrophes to happen. And they're all kind of linked up to old role-playing groups that I belong to. It seemed to be a common theme through the years as we were going on that when a group got near the end of a campaign, some member of that group would go and make a deal with somebody or go and do something that really caused a detrimental effect to a great deal of the world. And yeah, there are breaking points all through the 3,500 year history. Some, a lot more of the stuff happened like later on, but some major things happened, in short sequences of the world. When I finally got like the basic idea of the world going, sorry, 1 second. To make it clear, you guys are aware in the Saturday game of the full 3,500 year kind of span of things, although some details are not. So they're classified.
It sounds like everything there is like a kind of a mismatched chaos where things break and are put back together and
yeah. Sorry. Yes, I'd actually say that is actually a common theme, and it actually goes back to the exact origin of the world was basically a young creator god who they referred to. Yes, go ahead.
So being a historian in this world would be an exercise in feudal insanity?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why if you actually go to most of the libraries in this world, it's another point as to why things are this way. Many of the individuals running these libraries are undead or beings blessed with an extremely long lifespan who have been recording this stuff and dealing with these things for a long time. So it's kind of like minor apocalypse here, minor apocalypse
we've got these powerful beings running the various bits and pieces of the world. One of the ones we've gone to recently in the Friday night game here was Antwerp.
Yeah. So
what's Antwerp like?
Okay. The current incarnation of Antwerp. Well, Antwerp officially started very, very quickly as a trading destination, and from there it built up to a city of invention. They have an entire zone of the city that's dedicated as a proving grounds for cannons and anything else that you can think of. There's explosives, there's clockwork creatures. There's a lot of things, but also the other part of Antwerp is to do those kinds of things. There needs to be a lot of kind of labor, so there's a lot of that, and then there's a lot of housing for like labor, and then there's also the other aspect. There's a gambling center.
So it's a blue collar town.
Yeah. Yeah, except till you get to the very center, and then it's very academic. Well, sorry, it's very craftsman oriented. It's actually run by a group.
Factories have their own little, their secret societies and their clubs and.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of guilds. And
is that where August is from?
Yes. Well, August. That's where August lives now. We didn't really discuss like August's first kind of, that's where August is now. That's where her family is now. But we never really discussed exactly where she came from previous to this.
Okay.
It was just somewhere that wasn't not very keen on any kind of necromancy at all. I don't know about magic in general, but yeah, smaller Probably smaller type village.
Necromancy would wreck the economy of a factory town. With undead workers, that gets messy.
Yeah. So what you're dealing with though is Antwerp is a pretty large industrial state now. It's kind of walled itself off. In fact, the entire city has revolving walls that can be moved to various places and cannons mounted on the top, for a kind of 360 defense of its area should it ever come down to that kind of thing. There's domed areas, and that also leads to a fact that there's a large amount of pollution and stuff in certain areas of this that's dealt with by magic and other means, but it's definitely
dirty steam.
Yeah, but it's definitely closer and getting closer to an industrial power.
So that's fair to ask, actually. I wanted to bring up this question. Because it's a little bit more industrial and we see a lot more advancement with technologies like, railroad system, is it fair to say that on this planet that technology is advancing at a much faster pace than it would be in one of the normal realms,
without magic?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I would have to say that while technology is a relatively still new thing, couple, 100 years or so, it's definitely been sped along by artisans and gods and magic. So when you go to your god and you go, I'll make you a hammer, but if you give me this power, I can make you 100 hammers that kind of represent your glory in short time, and I can make you 1,000 hammers. Yeah.
You've also got that kind of thing where if you can get a broom to fly, no one ever needs to invent a plane.
Yeah, and that's why you will probably never see a plane. You see trains because they are, and it's one thing that you guys never noticed. Those trains are not powered by coal or anything. You never really got into the inside of the train engine to see it, but you have these devices that are used to carry things long distances, often with no other support other than loading and unloading.
So what does power those trains?
It's a combination of clockwork and magic, and it's Antwerp's kind of got the patent on that, and they don't really like to share that with anybody.
Is it a wind-up? If it's clockwork, you wind it up, and it just keeps perpetually going.
You magically have to wind it up, kind of, yeah. But no keys on that.
Toy.
But they're not the only place that has that kind of technology. Just the other place none of you have been to is way over in the eastern side of the world, way down to the southeast of all of you.
So are those, do they have a fuel, or are they just green transportation?
Well, essentially it's you cast the magic into the receptacle, and it fills up the meter to a certain degree, and as it goes, the meter goes down. The pure magical energy is used as a fuel for the receptors inside, and it's a lot of little crystals and gears and dials and others.
So all they just need to have is a big old group of wizards casting spells into these batteries to charge them up every day.
Clerics can do it as well.
Okay, so they've unionized or something. There's a group of them.
Well, that's the thing. A good deal of the authority of Antwerp are the guilds. And a good deal of those guilds are dwarven run and directly give tithes and worship to the dwarven craftsman gods. So it's kind of you give us, you pay homage to us, and we give you the means of powering these things for, which can be a problem, because if someone was a bit of an asshole and started chucking dispel magic and other things into engines, or doing a couple other things, they could really disrupt some of these things.
Walter's feeling very looked at.
And they only, the one of the reasons now that they are very selective on where they're putting these rails and doing this is that there are a couple of areas around this world that we've kind of briefly mentioned where magic is just, it's really messed up. You just can't go there. One I've mentioned in passing, I know for a fact, is a place called Abengale, which is also translates to the door. And that was the door where the old red dragon from elsewhere came through.
Are all of the dragons insane? I really need to know.
They're a lot of fun. I really do.
Strictly speaking, the dragons that you have met, for the most part, are, because they're kind of under the influence of a secondary spell. See, what happened is, between the time frame of the Friday game and the Saturday game, there was a momentary, and this all relates to what I was just talking about, where the Red Overseer attempted to come through Abengale, and that door, that weakened planar door, was destroyed, and it created like a dead magic zone and weird abominations.
EMP pulse.
Go ahead, Lauren.
I said EMP pulse, like pew.
Yeah, that something like that. And so what they did when Ravenous.
So there's some power out there that's messing with all the dragons specifically. It's a curse of some type.
Yeah, when Ravenous decided to try to seal him away for good, he consulted the god of magic to create a net that would impede, like, basically an extra planar dragon. Not really a net, but like a magical trap of sorts. So what it ended up doing, God of Magic's like, I got one better for you, and threw down this thing, and it basically, the majority of all dragons, it affected their memory, their minds. It's given them some quirks. This magic that's still kind of in place somewhere in this world, they can't get close enough to it to deal with it.
Are most people aware of this curse, or is it like a super secret?
No, this is a very big secret, and the only reason that you guys know it on Saturday is because you have dealt with.
Okay. Do the dragons know about
some dragons? Yes, they do, but they can't get to it, and they can't fix it. But they know about it, but they're not likely to tell most mortals because it is a weakness.
See,
like, why would you tell?
That's worth attaching a story to sometime. Is some guy who wants to heal the dragons.
The other aspect of it is, and you just met one on Saturday, one of the lung dragons, the old Oriental dragons from previous editions, they were completely untouched by this magic.
That's right. He was fighting the Shadow Dragon, right? That was
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
He was dealing with them on the nest where you guys were.
Okay. That was the nest, right? That wasn't Abengale, right? That island that came up.
No, that was the nest. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Abengale is, to give you an idea.
You said
okay.
Forgive me.
No. Antwerp is kind of here. Chartis, like the main capital, is kind of like in the middle. And Abengale is like a little down and kind of in between both of them, but like down at a slight angle. This has caused trouble for a lot of things because there are distinct areas that you can't put magical devices through anymore, so you really can't plot courses for a train when your train runs on magic.
Okay, so there's sloppy borders out there of areas you can't go into. There's a frontier.
Yeah, and then there are also several areas caused by this kind of backlash of this explosion that have caused all kinds of magical instances, such as on Saturday when you guys were in Charl and went underground and into that area where the broken vessel was, that kind of shifted the reality of all of that.
So this world's barely being held together.
Absolutely. It's got cracks everywhere and tape over several of those cracks. And that's and the biggest reason is fully already aware of the Saturday game, that the creator god is indisposed right now. He can't really interact beyond a few simple tricks anywhere. So he can't keep the thing that he made necessarily together if he's continued to be trapped.
Right. Well, that's future plot, but
yeah, but it does actually, and that's where the difference comes, because on Fridays he's very much there.
Now,
so you're not going to see the same
level.
Another
question I had on my list. When August is looking at and seeing ghosts, what's the afterlife experience here? Is there a god of the dead? Is there a place ghosts would rather be? Is there a thing they're trying to stay away from?
So this has to bring us back to one kind of very important thing. When the creator god made this world, he did steal bits and pieces from other things. He put them together, but he also crafted what they call like a crystal sphere around this thing. And it was a shard of crystal, and that's why it became Shardus, which didn't thing. But this shard of crystal allows outward like flow of things, but it's harder for things to come in. It was an attempt to keep those forces out from taking this. Well, what that also does is you still can, in the afterlife, you can still go to the heavens or hells or whatever based upon your belief system. But a select few get kind of trapped in that area. An unattended side effect, because when it was originally made, there was very little life on the world anyway, and he wasn't really aware that could have happened.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's plenty of standard death, although the gods they have a habit of not having long lifespans around here as well. Because being a god doesn't necessarily mean you're immortal. It just means you're very hard to kill by mortal means, or maybe even impossible to kill by mortal means. But if another god wants to do you in, they're always going to find some way to try to do it.
Okay.
Or to trap you away or whatever.
Roz, there was something you wanted to... Muted?
You are muted.
Yeah, where do ghost monkeys come from?
Okay.
There's a mommy ghost monkey and a daddy ghost monkey.
Yes. And then there's a lot of bananas and lotion and soft jazz.
Moving on.
What?
Lotion is not appropriate. Anyway.
No, neither is smooth jazz.
Silicone based.
Actually,
Rose is that kind of stream. Oh my god.
Kids, remember, if you don't want a burning asshole, use silicone based.
See, there you go. That's Nick's lesson for the day.
Thank you.
But no, to have to answer your question very seriously, Rosie,
Yes.
there are absolutely no ghost monkeys in the world until you came to me and said, I would like a ghost monkey. And then I'm like, sure, why not? Okay. And that's kind of a little bit of the philosophy and a little bit of why things are kind of crazy around here. Because I've had players come to me and go, I want to have a character named Max Power. I want to be a barbarian. And then he goes, and then like near the end of the game, Max Power obtained godhood, and we technically was a demigod. So there's a demigod Max Power, the demigod of barbarians, somewhere.
Okay. So this game, this world is like a big ball of chaos that gets rolled around in the multiverse and picks up other bits of the and it's just like all this stuff is sticking to it.
Well, it's
we'll call it the dirty hairball cosmology.
More or less, and that's the thing. I do abide more. I don't like the whole Shadowfall Feywild thing. I do have a Feywild and whatever. I do abide by the old Great Wheel kind of design.
Oh yeah.
Yes. There was a unintended wedding in the Feywild.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
Which the groom changed twice. Yep.
Vegas was great. I think the Feywild should be called Vegas.
No,
yeah,
Vegas. Oh my god.
The guilds were running Antwerp. Another city that's featured in the games was Meadowwild. And when I say featured, I mean we kind of teleported there at the end of the last session on Saturday.
Yes.
We did. Oh god.
Now the thing.
Rails. I reacted.
The thing. Okay.
I died.
So.
Sort of.
So, the biggest thing to note is there are smaller continental masses other places, but there are two large continents. The western side and the eastern side. The eastern side is where most of this is going on. It's where Shardis is, the capital, which is also named after the whole place. Antwerp is, and Meadowwild is. Meadowwild is on the eastern side of the eastern continent.
Geography aside,
yes.
Meadowwild's where wizards are ruling things, right?
Meadowwild is essentially a city on a giant pool of magical energy that comes straight from the outer planes. The ruling council tends to be from one family, the Thuls. It's a magic place. There's a lot of teleporting to go to various places you want to do. There really is a lot of... It's like everything is magic there. Not a lot of technology, a whole lot of magic. You need your hair cut, you just snap your fingers, you get your hair cut by magic. That kind of thing. Or you go to somebody who can do it if you can't do it yourself. It's a center for magical knowledge, but it's also a center where they have a group known as a collective that contains a vault of all of the world's quote-unquote dangerous artifacts. The vault is an unknown location, and to be fair, it's talked about all the time, but very few people can confirm that it actually exists.
Okay, so there's a big Warehouse 13 kind of thing out there.
Yeah, there definitely is, and that's the thing. As time has gone on, there is a bit of everything in this world, but the other general tone to this is a lot of creepiness on one side and a lot of just silliness on the other, and you just throw the creepiness and the silliness together, and whatever comes up comes
devil
up.
Cookies.
Yes.
That's how Marzi was born.
Yeah. Little did you know that Marzi is actually that focal point of like creepy and silly.
Yes.
Like right.
Oh, okay. So much fun.
But Meadowwild is essentially it's led completely by wizards, but they tend to have kind of an open kind of mind policy about things because
Aggressive hugging. I like it.
birthing
Being
calendar
bad.
birthing calendar date.
Yeah, it's for Katie.
Are you asking my birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, it's just a question. Okay, sorry.
What's it?
But
A/S.
yeah. So what I was saying is, if they really don't like something, they tend to fix it very quickly with magic. They don't really ask questions, and then if they
So
make
it's-
errors, they fix
It's
those.
a wizardry utopia.
It tries to be, yeah. And it tends to be also very open-minded towards individuals who have no magical ability whatsoever. They tend to
Like
take
Kickstarter.
refugees in. Yeah, they take refugees in times of war. They have oftentimes been the first groups trying to settle or broker peace.
Okay.
Only because the theory is, while we're fighting ourselves here on the surface, while we as mortals are fighting ourselves, there are bigger things out there getting ready to munch and trample us and do whatever. So less time that we spend fighting each other, the more time we spend preparing for the inevitable.
Fair. I have one final question that was actually on my list.
Okay.
When I was working with you to create Bosco, I brought up the idea of the Celestial Bureau of Familiar Affairs. And we visited there a little while, and I don't know how much of that you had planned out or we improv'd along the way.
That was 133% improv. I had nothing. Yes.
Well, it was brilliant, and I do like getting that chance to build a thing mid-session like that.
And that happens a lot because I do have notes, I do have prepared things, but if someone gives me something, I run with it.
So
I
my question ends up being, what other organizations are out there like that work in that level?
Okay. As I've mentioned very briefly, and this is one that Walter would know about, the Collective. They're a group they're essentially Meta Wild Inquisitors. They're not going out to like really beat up a bunch of people for quote unquote misusing magic, but their whole business is to collect dangerous artifacts and keep them out of the hands of idiots. So, so they go and do that stuff. Sorry, I had to silence my phone. There are the Haunters, which are actually a group of rogues that when you go and look through their rogues guild and you go and look through their kind of ranks, they're all named after various kinds of ghostly kind of creatures. And the rule of thumb for them is always wear a mask. Always wear a mask. So
Mask.
you never,
Mask.
and like if somebody finds out your real name, you're done. You're out of. You get kicked out. You're excommunicated. You're sent away.
Luchador
Or murdered.
thieves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes. Their boss is a half troll.
Subclass.
Yeah. Their boss is a half troll. A mother troll and a father human. Long story.
Is there an infernal variant of the Celestial Bureau of Familiar Affairs?
Yes. Well, because because the fair is fair rule exists. If you give one side something, you have to give the other side that. And in every opposing headquarters, there's one office where a member of the opposite group comes. So in your Celestial Bureau of Affairs building in Antwerp, there is a small room where there's an infernal individual. What this infernal individual does there, you don't know. You might see him by the water cooler or whatever, but
Think of something more like that one scene in Battlestar when the human delegation goes to meet the Cylon every year, and the Cylons never bother to show up.
And then
until they did.
The same is true of there being an infernal office, and some unlucky celestial being gets to stay in there and worry why Brad took his stapler, so to speak.
Fair. So I've gone through my list.
There's a couple of other groups. The Orcish Commandos.
We've run into them. They were
very highly valued for their jobs. And there's a third group. You know what? I don't think I want to really...
That's fine. We can move on from there.
Talk about that one, because that one's actually not yet revealed. So that would be a little trouble. So does anybody else have any questions?
Yes. So, how common is magic in this world? Is it widespread, or is it more focused in certain areas? Is it taboo? Is it perfectly fine?
I think it depends on. One of the biggest thing is it depends on where your source of magic is.
Okay.
If it's clerical magic, it's widespread. Like nearly everybody in this world believes in one god or another, or multiple gods, or even if they don't believe in certain gods, they know that there's been proof enough that the gods exist in some way. That clerical magic you'll find pretty much anywhere. Divine, not divine, sorry, because that is divine, but arcane magic. There are several areas that it is kind of frowned upon more, but the highest concentrations of that are in Shardus and Metawild, where the highest concentrations are of active magic, which used quite often are in Shardus and Metawild. And as you get out more toward the southern areas, the warm lands where Margia is from, or even onto the western continent, there's not as much arcane magic available. It's Antwerp has a couple of laws about certain forms of arcane magic, quote unquote witchcraft laws. They're not actually great representations of it, but that's the thing. These governments are flawed. These individuals make poor choices, and I often allow the players to point that out to them in some fashion.
In general, magic seems to be everywhere in one shape or form or another. Like there hasn't been a
Yeah, and that is purely because at the turn of point of creation of this place, the creator god took these elements from other places that were just pure bits of magic from other worlds.
Yeah, I'd absolutely say it's a high magic world.
Yeah, so it is a very high magic world. There was a moment in time where it was a very low magic world, but then I was like, I don't like it. Yeah. So magic's pretty high. Now there is one other brand of magic. Well, it's not quite the same, but it's indistinguishable for most cases, and that's psionics. And there are cases of psionic ability in this world, but they're very limited, and they are also frowned upon by a lot of places because about 300 years ago there was a big kind of invasion where
I haven't thought about that before, but that's kind of funny that there's psionics are often in game looked at as a problem, but that's just they were presented that way in the early psionics handbooks. Like I'm just not. I don't know. I don't think I like it anymore.
Well, they're a bit of a problem only because the individuals that kind of brought them in are the big bad enemies of this world. So it's kind of trying to police what they're doing. So
Right.
yeah.
So did anyone else have questions to ask here? I think we've exhausted our questions.
Yep. 1 second. There is
something else you wanted to include?
Is there time travel involved? Like where we go backwards and they go forwards?
time travel is not out of the question.
Okay.
It's happened before, and it's not at all impossible. And I think it's covered.
Right.
I don't. I guess the one other thing to note, because we didn't really talk too much about it, but on the western side, the two major kingdoms on the western side are Tarl, which you guys have come from, and that's run by the orcs.
That's warring, right? They're still battling, defending.
They fight each other now and then, but it's a little more. It's not always open warfare, but they definitely will deal with each other. And then
is that where the chicken helmets and stuff came into play? I came in after. I think they got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure.
And then there's Canish, to the north, and that's ruled by what they essentially call themselves is the basically they're untainted gnolls because they separated their demonic influence from them. So and I think last thing. Nope. No, actually, I think that covers it all.
So
if there
will be
are other questions later on, maybe whatever. But
it's a specific question, but it'd be kind of out of like I wouldn't know. Just for my own. What was that blue crystal skull that was in the library? That was in the center. Like, was that? I forget if it was magical or not. I just wrote it down and I thought it was like it wasn't there.
Oh,
before.
that was purely decorative.
Okay.
That was
Mari's shiny object.
I want. She will definitely make a sugar skull.
Oh, do you mean the one that was in the Bard's College library?
The Bard's College, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually just decorative. That was like a prop for a show.
All right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, so we'll be back here next Friday night, 8 o'clock. You'll get to see more of Shardus there. Saturday and Sunday, I run a pair of games. We run Curse of the Azure Bonds on Sundays.
Maybe.
Our Water Deep and Beyond game on Mondays. Between now and then, if you need to track me down, Evil Sales Ass on Twitter is the best way to do so. Pass off to Derek, who ran the show tonight, kind of.
Yep. Yeah. You can find me at Disposable Idiot on Twitter. We run the Friday games. I play in the Saturday. Sunday games. Although I do play on Saturday too. But and that's really all there is for me. Nick.
Hello. Blue Aura 94YT is Twitter, and pretty much everything else. I'm here Friday, Sunday, Monday. I'm exhausted and possibly going to pass out after this. End of the work week. You just need to kind of relax and then think about expending all your energy on video games. So that's just me. But I'll pass it off to Lauren, our guest for tonight.
Is this technically my special appearance? I think I'm cool.
Oh my God.
I will not sign autograph. No bad joke. Lauren, you can find me on Twitter at the Splintering. I like a lot of things. I retweet a lot of things. Occasionally, I'm funny, and that's pretty much it. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie. You can find me at KatieBugs just about anywhere. The thing I use the most is Instagram. Twitter is just liking stuff. That's it. Rosie?
Cinder Wizard on Twitter and Instagram, and Cinder_Wizard on PS4. If you want to play something like Minecraft or Call of Duty. That's it.
Alrighty. Well, everyone have a great night. We'll see you on Sunday.